3,200 years ago, the world didn't just change, it ended. In less than 50 years, the greatest civilizations of the Bronze Age, the mighty Hittites, the sophisticated Mycenaeans, and the wealthy kingdoms of the Levant, were systematically wiped off the map. They were known as the Sea Peoples, a terrifying, nameless confederation of invaders who appeared from the mist of the Mediterranean, leveled cities to ash, and then vanished. For over a century, mainstream historians called them the ultimate ghosts of history. But in 2019, science did the impossible. Archaeologists extracted ancient DNA from a hidden cemetery in the city of Ashkelon. What they found was a genetic bombshell, a signature that challenges the very foundation of our history books. A DNA profile that, according to everything we know about ancient migrations, simply shouldn't exist. Today, we peel back the layers of a 3,000-year-old cover-up to reveal the forbidden truth of the Sea Peoples. To understand why their DNA is so controversial, we first have to understand the terror they caused. Imagine a world as interconnected as ours today. Trade routes stretched from the tin mines of Britain to the gold mines of Egypt. It was a globalized era of prosperity. Then, out of nowhere, the great ships arrived. The Pharaoh Ramesses III recorded their arrival on the walls of his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu. He described them not just as an army, but as a conspiracy in their isles. They didn't just come to loot, they came with their families, their cattle, and their wagons. They were a people on the move, desperate and deadly. The Hittite Empire, a superpower of the time, sent a final frantic letter to the king of Ugarit. It read, "The enemy ships are here. The cities are burned. Evil has been done." That was the last letter ever sent from Ugarit. The city was leveled and never rebuilt. But here is the mystery. Who were they? For decades, scholars argued in circles. Were they Vikings of the Mediterranean, Minoan refugees, or survivors of a climate catastrophe? The answer remained buried under layers of ash and salt until the geneticists stepped in. In 2016, a team led by the Leon Levy expedition made a monumental breakthrough in the ancient city of Ashkelon in modern-day Israel. They discovered a cemetery. Not just any burial ground, but a Philistine one. The Philistines were long suspected to be the descendants of these mysterious sea peoples. But testing ancient DNA in the hot, humid environment of the Levant is a scientific nightmare. DNA degrades rapidly in the heat. However, using advanced next-generation sequencing, researchers targeted the petrous bone, a tiny, incredibly dense part of the inner ear that preserves genetic material like a biological time capsule. In 2019, the results were published in the journal Science Advances. The lead author, Michael Feldman, confirmed that the early Iron Age inhabitants of Ashkelon carried a genetic component that was completely alien to the local population. This DNA didn't come from Egypt. It didn't come from the local deserts. It came from southern Europe, specifically from Crete, Greece, or possibly Sardinia. But this is where the story takes a dark and forbidden turn. Here is the mystery that shouldn't exist. When the researchers tested the DNA of the Philistines from just 2 centuries later, something shocking happened. The European genetic signature was gone. It didn't just fade, it vanished. Within roughly 200 years, just a few generations, the Sea People's descendants had become genetically indistinguishable from the local population. How is that possible? When a massive group of invaders conquers a land and settles it with their wives and children, their genetic footprint usually lasts for thousands of years. We see it with the Vikings in England. We see it with the Mongols in Asia. Their legacy is written in the blood of the people who live there today. But the Sea Peoples? They became genetic ghosts. Some mainstream scholars claim they simply intermarried and were deluded. But others suggest a more disturbing possibility. Was there a systematic effort to erase them? Or was their European DNA so incompatible with the social structure of the time that it was selected against? The rapid disappearance of this DNA suggests that the Sea Peoples weren't just absorbed, they were genetically overwhelmed, or perhaps their lineage was intentionally halted. Why is this DNA considered, quote, forbidden? Because it shatters the academic narrative. For years, the consensus was that the Bronze Age collapse was caused by internal revolts or simple droughts. The idea of a mass migration of Europeans into the Middle East was often dismissed as a myth or a pharaoh's exaggeration. But the DNA proves the migration was real. It proves that thousands of years before the Crusades, there was a massive, violent movement of people from west to east that reshaped the world. Furthermore, the DNA reveals a connection that many institutions are hesitant to discuss: the link between the Sea Peoples and the sophisticated civilizations of the West. If these primitive Europeans could topple the greatest empires on Earth, it forces us to rewrite the hierarchy of the ancient world. It suggests that the barbaric West was far more organized and technologically capable of naval warfare than we are told in our schools. There are even whispers that the Sea Peoples possessed iron technology long before it became common, giving them a superweapon edge that history books are only now beginning to acknowledge. The Sea Peoples remain one of the most polarizing topics in archaeology. They were the architects of the Dark Ages, the destroyers of the Old World, and the silent founders of the new one. The 2019 DNA study gave them a face, but it also gave us a new mystery. We now know where they came from, but we still don't know why they disappeared from the genetic record so fast. Were they the victims of a prehistoric ethnic cleansing? Or did they simply realize that to survive in the East, they had to bury their past, their culture, and even their DNA? One thing is certain: the deeper we dig into our genetic code, the more we realize that history is not a straight line. It is a series of erasures and forbidden truths waiting to be rediscovered. What do you think happened to the Sea Peoples? Did they vanish by choice, or were they erased? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to dive deeper into the mysteries of our ancient past, don't forget to subscribe to Revelorium. The truth is in the strata.